Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will be presenting the Ready, Set, Go Wildfire Preparedness webinar this evening. So again, thank you for joining us. We will be presenting quite a bit of information tonight. And so after the program, we will be sending out an email that will contain a Dropbox link that will have additional information. Basically, it'll cover all of the information that's discussed here this evening. So, but we are really looking forward to presenting this information and providing you insight on how you can best prepare yourself and your home and your family for a potential wildfire. If you have any questions at any time throughout the program this evening, please simply just put your question into the Q&A and we will go do our best to answer it. There is also a chat feature and you can put the question there, but if you put it in the Q&A, then that just helps keep all of our questions in one area so we can do our best to answer them. We will be also putting some information into the chat feature, like some direct links and so forth, as we move through the program this evening. So feel free to keep your chat feature open if you have that ability to do that, because again, information will be shared in the chat. So again, my name is Gina Kelly and I am with the Santa Clara County Fire Department. And our program this evening again is Ready, Set, Go. And so we're going to go ahead and move along. Again, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to just simply put your question into that Q&A field. So our presenters here this evening is Battalion Chief Mike Matheson with the Santa Clara County Fire Department. We also have CAL FIRE Battalion Chief John Byrne, and we also have Phil Yanoni, who is a Battalion Chief with the Santa Clara County Fire Department. And lastly, we have Eugenia Rendler from the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council, who's a Managing Director. So all four of these presenters will be speaking throughout the evening tonight. And again, if you have any questions, we'll do our best. If you could just put them in the Q&A feature, we'll do our best to answer them. All right.
Well, good evening. My name is Mike Matheson. I'm a Battalion Chief of Pre-Fire Management and Wildfire Resiliency with the Santa Clara County Fire Department. I'll start with an overview of our department. We serve the communities of Campbell, Cupertino, Los Altos Hills, Los Gatos, Monte Sereno, and Saratoga, along with the unincorporated areas of Lexington Basin and the Summit Road area. We do this out of 15 fire stations with 330 employees and an approximate population of 226,000 served. Santa Clara County Fire is a special dependent district formed under the California Health and Safety Code, and it is governed by the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, good evening. First of all, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you, County Fire, for having us on and making things safer for the community. Overview on CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE has 21 units throughout the state. In Santa Clara County specifically, we have cooperative agreements with Morgan Hill City, the South Santa Clara County Fire District, and we're responsible for the unincorporated areas for wildland firefighting. We have 13 fire stations. 8 are state funded, 5 through the cooperative agreement. And we're working on 2 partnership facilities. Moffett Field, we're getting a larger helicopter. We're going from a Bell helicopter to getting a Firehawk, which will be moving to Moffett Field here. As you may have seen, CAL FIRE is getting some larger helicopters to meet the need of today's demand on the fire service. We're working on staffing up 2 California National Guard crews as a partnership, and you'll see them throughout the county doing fuel reduction work with our cooperators and responding to incidents. Our wildland resources in the county, we have 10 Type 3 engines, 2 water tenders, a helicopter, 1 bulldozer, and the 3 fire line hand crews. In Santa Clara County, we're responsible for protecting over 450,000 acres of the state responsibility area. And that's the unincorporated areas for just for the wildland firefighting. You'll see here, Chief Matheson will kind of talk next. We always talk about this is the worst fire season ever, and he's going to lead in how bad that's really been these last few years.
So in 2020, we saw the largest fires in the history of the state. Of the top 20 largest fires in California, 6 of them occurred last year alone. The SCU Lightning Complex, which burned in Santa Clara County, as well as Contra Costa, Alameda, and Stanislaus, ranked as the 3rd largest fire in the state's history. Hotter and drier weather this whole last decade, coupled with tremendous amounts of drought-stressed fuels and thousands of homes built in and adjacent to our wildland areas, have created a wildland-urban interface problem throughout the state.
All right, so we're going to take a look at this fire severity map. As you can see, most of the county is in very, very tough seasons. We saw this last year that Santa Clara, in our unit, we had the largest fire in the county's history. So I want to talk a little bit about what mutual threat zones are. So we have different agreements with the different agencies, with San Jose Fire, Santa Clara County Fire, Gilroy Fire, all the different cities where if there is a wildland fire, before we decide whose fire it is, we send a full response. So as soon as we hear that there's a fire and it could threaten the state responsibility areas, we send a unified response where we send all of our resources and we coordinate efforts on attacking the fire. So we call those mutual threat zones, and those are set up throughout the state. And in the Santa Clara unit, which we have 5 counties that we're involved in, we have over 550,000 acres of the state responsibility area. So it was a busy summer last year, and it's looking to be like another busy summer as things are already getting hot and dry. Chief Matheson.
And of those 550,000 acres in the Santa Clara unit, 200,000 of those are within the Santa Clara County Fire Department's jurisdiction. Is referred to as dual jurisdiction. It's where the state has responsibility for fire protection in the watershed for a wildland fire, and the county has responsibility to be out protecting the citizens. Nearly all the wildland areas in this county are categorized on this map as either high or very high fire hazard severity zones. And this fire hazard severity map demonstrates that. Yellow being moderate, orange being high, and the red being very high. So in 2018, the California Climate Change put out an assessment that predicted California will continue to warm and experience increased wildfire activities. And that climate assessment is on this website, on the link at the bottom of this slide, and should be shared within the chat so that you can access it as well. Warming trends in the 2020 fire season and the actual amount of acres that burned are consistent with the predictions in this climate assessment. 8 of the last 10 years have had below average rainfall. This year alone, we were 50% less rain than we normally would get, and we have 66% of the snowpack we would normally have, making this the 3rd driest rain year on record. Most of the state is in some form of drought, and just last week, the governor declared drought emergencies in a number of counties to the north of us. Along with some other weather issues that affect us on the fire line are red flag warnings. And red flag warnings are notices issued by the National Weather Service that weather conditions within the next 24 hours may result in extreme fire behavior. And there are a number of instances that combinations of the 4 below us that could create a red flag condition, whether it's low humidity, strong winds, dry fuels, or potential dry lightning. Red flag warnings, like I said, are issued through news outlets and public safety agencies. Those agencies then push out the warnings to the public. Ignitions or fires that start under red flag warnings will spread quickly. And red flag warning is your indication to get ready and get set to go in the event of a fire start next to your house. And we have a video that we'll show you here about red flag warnings.
Red flag warning is a warning that's issued by the National Weather Service. There's the possibility of extreme fire behavior because of the weather patterns.
Typically, that means that the air is dry, so the relative humidity is low, the temperature is high, and it's windy outside, so that if a fire starts, it's likely to spread quickly. So you want to do anything that you can to avoid starting a fire outside, things like outdoor burning.
Trying not to use spark-causing tools and equipment like lawnmowers, weed whackers.
And make sure, again, that your vehicle's in good working condition before driving in areas that are likely to have fires, such as the rural roads around the county.
Moving livestock can actually take a considerable amount of time, especially if the fire is close, because the livestock is scared and often difficult to deal with. So actually moving the livestock before a fire even starts is really the best plan.
When there's a red flag in Santa Clara County, your fire department's looking at things like increasing staffing, potentially putting fire apparatus out on patrol, particularly in high hazard areas. Look at the availability of specialized wildland firefighting resources across the region and make sure that we have the right resources in place should a wildfire start.
So during a red flag warning here in the county, you will see our department, as well as other agencies, cooperating agencies, display their red flags outside of their fire stations on their flag poles and increase staffing with additional fire equipment. We will be sending out information and alerts and posts via social media and notify the local media outlets. We'll patrol vulnerable areas and suspend open burning and use of spark arresting or spark emitting equipment. Red flag warnings have taken on a renewed importance in this new fire regime that we have in California. Like I said before, fire starts will spread quickly with high winds, low humidities, and high temperatures. And it is critical that you are ready to go if and when a fire were to start under a red flag condition or any condition during the summer. Also, which normally coincides with some red flag warnings with PG&E are the public safety power shutoffs. Power safety shutoffs are normally done if extreme fire danger conditions are threatening your community or the electrical grid, and the electricity could be shut off to your area for up to 48 hours. It takes time for them, once they shut the power lines down, to re-inspect the lines before they turn them back on. So it's not a quick process. There's a medical baseline program, which sets up assistance. It's assistance program for residents and customers who have special energy needs and qualifying medical conditions. And you can receive extra notifications in advance of those PSPSs. And you can check out those programs on the link here on this slide.
And just a reminder that if you check your chat, more information and direct links will also be placed in the chat. So information about PG&E PSPS has been put in the chat for you.
So we'll get into what affected the county last year here in the Santa Clara unit. So we had 2 fires locally that affected our county: the Santa Clara, the SCU Lightning Complex, and the CZU Lightning Complex. We won't be discussing the CZU Lightning Complex tonight. We have 2 YouTube channel links that will be coming up on the chat that you can view the San Mateo Santa Cruz's presentation on the CZU Lightning Complex. We'll be discussing the SCU Lightning Complex. And before we get into that, we'll talk with have Chief Byrne explain how we name fires, what a complex is, why are fires put into complexes.
So thank you, Chief. Specifically, during the lightning siege, there were thousands of fires throughout the state. And with the state and OES system, there needs to be coordination that takes place to get resources to the places that they're needed the most. So when we have many fires in a general area, they will end up complexing that fire. That way, when an incident management team or the type 3 team, incident management team that we have in the county comes in, there's not a duplication of efforts. There's not multiple ordering. We're able to set priorities. And as these things get as bad as they did this past summer in the last few years, at the higher levels, at the state levels, they will set the priorities when resources are coming from out of the area, from outside the state. It also helps with communications, single point ordering, span of control, and the tracking of resources. And it allows the IMTs to have a much more effective role. One of the questions that came up on the last presentation that we did is how are our fires named? So like we talked about, as soon as the bell goes off or as soon as the call comes in, County Fire, Cal Fire, and whatever agencies we have around start responding. We also have air units that start responding immediately. And to get everybody on the same page, we name the fire typically on the street that the fire was called in on, or a geographical thing that may stick out in that area. And that way we're all on the same page and working together, and we know which fire we're all on.
Thank you, Chief. So August 15th, red flag warning is put into effect for Santa Clara County for dry lightning. As a result, over the next 24 hours, the state was hit with over 15,000 lightning strikes, and over 650 fires were started by those lightning strikes, which created the situation that we saw last year. So what's causing this situation? It's a combination of three things: drought-stressed fuel, hotter and drier weather, and urban sprawl into the wildland areas. These have all led to the devastating wildfires in recent years. And now we're going to go in how we're trying to address it. So to address the fuels, we're dealing with fuel reduction, fuels management, partnerships, and fuels projects with the Fire Safe Council, with CAL FIRE, with our land management agencies. Highway 17 had a shaded fuel break put in it in 2019 because it's such a critical artery for transportation and can easily trap residents on the freeway in the event of a fire. The Fire Safe Council has chipping programs that allow residents to clear defensible space around their house and then chip that product. And CAL FIRE has projects as well that Chief Byrne can speak to as well that he's doing in this county.
So on top of the fuel mitigation work, we also do broadcast burning. Currently, we're working in Grant Ranch County Park to work on fuel reduction projects that give fuel breaks and give the different fire agencies opportunities to train and to use fire as a tool to create these fire breaks and to get the vegetation more into the natural area. With getting these two hand crews that have just come to the unit, we're able to get a lot more work. We're working in Mount Madonna, and we're working with the Fire Safe Council to identify where the next priorities are going to be, and to work with different agencies to work at making Santa Clara a safer place.
And we're dealing with weather. We're looking for quicker detection and response. We have cameras all over the Bay Area and all over the state. Some are PG&E cameras. Alertwildfire.org. There are 60 of those cameras throughout the Bay Area that anybody can look up and look at any time during the day. As a matter of fact, a lot of times fire managers do look at these cameras when reports of fires are started to give an idea of if A, it's in the right area, and B, if there's an actual smoke column and start. They're extremely helpful, being able to, especially looking in the areas that are not heavily populated. And then the third is the wildland urban interface. How are we dealing with that? Well, we're dealing with that with planning and education. So part of that is tonight. We're educating our public about how to be safer, recognize where you live, and also we're coming up with pre-attack plans or pre-fire management plans, which identify escape routes, safety zones. It identifies addresses and streets. It's a It's a plan that we could, you can download, that we can send anybody from anywhere in the state. A lot of times when you have fires here in Los Gatos, if we had another Lexington Hills fire, we're going to get resources from all over the state. And a lot of them are not familiar with Los Gatos. With these pre-attack plans, we're able to give them the plan, and they are going to have a map. They're going to have an idea of what the communications plan is. They're going to have an idea of where the safeties zones are, the escape routes, and some of the field breaks that have been worked in that general area. And that all leads us up to getting ready and getting set and going. And with that, I will hand it over to Chief Yanoni.
Thank you, Chief. And good evening, everybody. My name is Phil Yanoni. I'm a battalion chief with the Santa Clara County Fire Department. I'm actually one of 3 battalion chiefs that are on each day. I'm currently serving out of the Battalion 74 area, which serves the Cupertino, the Monte Vista, the Los Altos, and Los Altos Hills area. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll dive right into this information. I think it's safe to say thus far, we've talked about the things that your first responders are doing to kind of ramp up and prepare to get ready for these upcoming wildland and wildfire seasons that we're having. But now we want to shift gears a little bit here, and we want to put the focus back on you as citizens and talk about the things that you can do to make sure that you keep your home safe as well as yourself safe. So this is where the Ready, Set, Go program comes into play. And we're going to go through each of those step by step. Your home can actually be affected in 3 different ways. It can be affected by being exposed to direct flames. It could succumb to radiant heat from other structure fires that might be burning in the immediate area. And it can also be victims of the flying embers, as we like to call them, that can actually travel up to a mile away, land on your roof, land in your gutter, and actually start your house on fire. So your house is very, very vulnerable unless we take some steps to prepare it. And we're going to actually go ahead and do that. I believe we have a quick video of about 30 seconds that's going to kind of talk about some of the things that you can do to prepare.
Wildfire can destroy your home and property. Harden your home with fire ignition resistant materials before wildfire strikes. Fire ignition resistant materials can help protect your home and can reduce the spread of wildfire. Upgrades to your roof, vents, windows, deck, fence, and more can harden your home, giving it the best chance of surviving a wildfire. Don't wait until it's too late. Prepare for wildfire and harden your home now. Learn more from CAL FIRE at readyforwildfire.org.
Okay. Well, just looking at that quick video, some of us might be thinking that's a little daunting, a little overwhelming. So how do I get ready? I mean, where do I start? Is it too late for me to start? Well, I get it. I understand how it could be a little bit overwhelming, but trust me when I tell you that you can get ready. It's not too late. And we are going to take you through those steps to make sure that you are a little bit more prepared in the event that one of these wildland fires comes and impacts your homes. There's 3 major things, and we'll break each one down, but there's 3 major things that you can do to kind of get ready. The very first one is create a defensible space around your house. The second is harden your house or prepare your house to deal with the flames and the fire when they get there. And then the third is learning how to stay informed by using reliable applications and social media platforms. So those are the 3 big things. In regards to defensible space, we break them down into 3 different ignition zones, if you will. And the first one there is the immediate zone. And that's that area from your house, 0 to 5 feet out, that we want to initially focus on. So from the top down, that means we want to keep our roofs clean. We want to keep our gutters clean of any of those pine needles and all the stuff that's accumulated over time. Remember those embers I talked about that can travel up to a mile away? They like to nestle down there. And quite honestly, those are a lot of the ways that some of these house fires start. So we want to keep our roofs very clean. We want to make sure that we are repairing and replacing any broken shingles or roof tiles that we may have. And we want to make sure that we're putting mesh screens over our vents to help keep those embers from penetrating into the house. If you have any type of a deck, It's a good idea to try to screen in that deck, especially underneath it, or box it in. A lot of times debris can accumulate underneath there, and that's nothing but kindling for these fires as they kind of come through. So we want to try to do that. And then most importantly, we want to move anything that is flammable away from the house. That's might be plants, that could be firewood piles, anything that could help kind of ignite and start the house. Basically, what you're looking for is to have that first 0 to 5 feet a non-combustible area, if you will. It doesn't mean that you can't have vegetation there, but it does mean you need to put a little thought as to what type of vegetation you can put there. And there's websites that you can look at, nurseries that can assist you with making sure that you're doing that appropriately. So that's the first zone. We call that the immediate zone, that first 0 to 5 feet out. Then we start expanding out a little bit more into zone 2. And this is what we call the intermediate zone. And this extends out to about 30 feet from the house, or any other structures, garages, or any other structures that you may have actually on your property. Here's where we want to remove all the dead plants, all the dead grass, weeds, vegetation, and things like that. We want to make sure that if we have trees, we are trimming them on a regular basis, and we're keeping our trees about 10 feet apart. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we go along as to why that's so important. You want to remove any branches that may possibly be hanging over the house and maybe impacting near the chimney or anything like that. Some of those larger trees, we want to make sure we cut those back. And just in general, be thinking about how can we create space both horizontally and vertically between the vegetation that's in there within that first 30 feet of the house. Again, that's called the intermediate zone. The third part, or the third zone that we like to talk about, is the extended zone. This is up about to 100 feet of your house, your garage, or any other structures that you may have on your property. This is pretty vital. This area here is your first line of defense. This is where you want to make sure that you are cutting down any weeds to almost no more than like 4 inches. We call these light flashy fuels, and the fire travels extremely fast through these. And if you have those weeds right up to your house, it's going to be like a match. So that's something that you want to really maintain and keep manicured, is keeping those weeds cut down and mowed on a regular basis. We talked a little bit about some of the horizontal and vertical spacing that you want to take place between the vegetation that's on your property. By doing that, you are thinning what we call fuel continuity. In other words, by spacing out your vegetation, it stops the fire or makes it harder for the fire to jump or move continuously through. Spacing it out acts as a buffer. So that's something that we encourage you to do. The further out you go from your house, the less spacing you can actually do. So if you have trees that are 30 to 60 feet out away from the house, we recommend that those are about 12 feet apart, especially in the canopy area, the top part, because the flames can start on the surface. They can work their way up the vegetation, up the trees, and they can crown right across all those canopies. So we want to make sure that we have good spacing on those trees. Trees 60 to 100 feet out away from the house, we recommend about 6 feet apart from those canopies. So just thinking about manicuring and maintaining your property in those 3 different zones is going to go a long way. So in regards to getting ready, that's the first thing you can do. And if you have any questions more on how to actually cut trees or whether I can or cannot, you can contact your local city, because there's different ordinances that you can look into, or your local arborist that can give you good suggestions on how to do that as well. Next, we're going to talk about how you want to harden your house. Okay, so this is the part where it's really hands-on for you to take ownership of your house and make sure that it's ready to accept those flame or that fire front as it comes to you. And there's a couple different things you can do. Again, starting with the roofs, it's the most vulnerable part of your house. I see a lot of it, or we see a lot of it as first responders and those folks who still have the wood shake decorative roofs. They're beautiful, I get it, but they don't do very well in a firefight or as far as being flame resistant, especially the older they get. Not recommended. We recommend that you go with something more like a 30-year comp shingle. maybe a metal roof, maybe a tile or clay roof, something like that. There's other options out there. But if you are in the process of building and or re-roofing your house, we recommend that we stay away from those wood shake type shingles. Again, we talked a little bit about gutters. They actually make non-combustible gutter covers. You can Google those and look for those. It'd be a good way. But regardless, you may want to keep those gutters clean. Some residences may need to do that 2 or 3 times a year. I get it, but it's what you need to do. The third would be windows. Windows need to be maintained. It's one thing if they're cracked or broken, that's a given. We need to replace those because that's just an open area for those embers to float into the house and start the house on fire. Again, up to a mile away. But what we do recommend is that we go with the double pane windows. I don't think we're really doing single pane windows anymore, but let's go with the double pane windows and actually make sure one of those windows is actually tempered. That would assist with the shattering that could potentially take place from that radiant heat that's attacking the house. So those are some of the suggestions we recommend there with the windows. Decks, we love our decks. I get it, we like to hang out. What do people do with decks? They store stuff underneath the decks, usually things that are pretty combustible. Clear all those out. Again, screen it off and don't let anything accumulate underneath there. Fences are another big thing, something you wouldn't maybe initially think about, but fences tend to draw the fire away to the house. So we recommend fences not actually touching the house. If you do have a fence that actually butts up against the house, think about maybe having that last 5 feet of the fence built in some sort of non-combustible or flame-resistant material. Would definitely assist in that. So those are some of the things that you can do to kind of harden your house. We have on our website, we have a couple different links that also talk about it on the Santa Clara County Fire website. We also have a couple free webinars that are coming up starting, I believe, in July and go through August that are free. And we recommend that maybe you get on and get an opportunity to view. Here's where they'll go real in depth on these 3 different home ignition zones. And so we recommend if you have the opportunity to go ahead and sign up for those and view those as well. Okay, so the third step we're asking you to do underneath the Ready section of the Ready, Set, Go program is to make sure that you're doing what is necessary in order to stay informed. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. One is you can register under what we call the Alert SCC. That can be done within the Santa Clara County website as well. It's free to do. And this is a fantastic registration that's going to put you in the queue to be alerted via your phone, email, maybe landline in the event that there's any major event or disasters or wildfires of anything coming your way. You will be alerted through this system. I think it's important that I remind you that when you do sign up, it takes all of about 2 minutes, but make sure you're signing up in not only the area that you work, but the area that you also live. So for example, if you live up in the San Francisco area and you live in Los Gatos, you may receive an alert for one area, but not the other. So when they shoot out those alerts, they sort of shoot them out to the areas that you're registering. So we strongly encourage that you go ahead and sign up for the Alert SCC. And as we go through tonight's program, we'll actually kind of circle back around on this and talk a little bit more in depth about it because it is that important. Another free download that you can do is the Ready SCC app. This is a great application that will help you put together disaster kits, things such as that. It will help. This is an app where you can store some really critical information. And I believe from this application, you can shoot out a single blast text message to your loved ones or others to let them know that you are evacuated and that you're safe versus having to do them all individually. So it's just a wealth of good information, and we recommend that you go ahead and look into that and download that as well. It's a great app to have to help keep you, your family, and your house safe. Moving on, another really good resource is the state. CAL FIRE's website is a fantastic site for you to go ahead, and it's just a wealth of information. They have a very similar plan that you can see here on the screen that they follow. This is where they talk about how to plan, how to be in the know, and how to act. A wealth of information from the CAL FIRE folks, your state fire department. And I strongly recommend that you get on their website and peruse that. And there's just lots of very valuable information on that website as well. And then we also have another one on our website, the Santa Clara County website, a gentleman by the name of Jack Cohen, who is works with NFPA and also has some history in the Forest Service. And he talks about how your home can survive a wildfire. Fairly short information video, but dives kind of a little bit deeper into some of the things that we're talking about. So if you get the opportunity, we recommend that you go ahead and take a view at that as well. So there we are. So now we're ready. Okay, we've talked about defensible space. We've learned how we can harden our home, and we've learned how we can stay informed. We're ready. The next step is let's get set.
Chief Yanoni, we have a couple
Yes.
questions before we go on to get set. It was asked, does a big tree with branches that hang over the roof violate Zone 1 guidelines?
Well, violation is not really so much the term that we're using. These are strong recommendations to help keep your house safe and you safe. But anytime you have those tree limbs hanging over, large or small trees, that's just a pathway for those flames to make it to your house. So we don't want anything overhanging the roofs, and especially over the chimney area. And believe me, I say that with complete understanding that some of these beautiful areas that our homes are set, we love our shade, we love the trees. It's one of the reasons why you picked where you live. However, you should understand that there could be consequences with not keeping those well-maintained and manicured off of your roof and away from your property. So our recommendation is that we do our best to try to adhere to those 3 different zones.
Okay, thank you. And another question from Carla is, we put on a non-combustible wood shake roof. How much of a problem is this?
And when we say the word non-combustible, please understand that things get hot enough, things will still burn. Okay, so nothing's completely fire resistant in that sense when it comes to the roofing. But just the fact that they've done that is a great start. You still need to maintain it. Just because you put that type of roof on it doesn't mean that you are good to go. So I would recommend that that roof is inspected on a regular basis, and blow it, sweep it, keep the gutters clean and free of all debris. But you've taken that first step and taken the appropriate flame resistive type of roofing. I think that's great.
Okay, excellent. And then it was just another question is, will the videos be shared on YouTube as well? If you look down in the chat, all of the information that we shared with you on the various websites is available in the chat right now, and the direct links are there. So feel free to check those out. And then also it was asked, is this webinar being recorded and shared? And yes, we are recording this webinar, and it will be shared on our department website at a later time. And it'll actually be on the same page that your home can survive a wildfire. This page right here on our website, you can find that, and they will be listed underneath here. So more information on that. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have so far. Thank you, Chief Yanoni. And now we will go ahead and move on to get set.
Okay, great questions. Yeah, keep them coming. I appreciate that. So we're ready. Like we said, now we're going to get set. So right now, if I were to ask you, and do you have a plan? What would you do right now in the event if there was a large scale disaster and you had to either evacuate or even shelter in place? Are you prepared to do it? If you had to evacuate, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to evacuation center? Where are the evacuation centers? Are you going to go to a friend's house, to other family members? How are you going to get there? How are you going to let them know whether or not you get there, how you got there safely? So these are things that hopefully you don't have all the answers to, and this is the reason why you're here tonight, so we can kind of help prepare you for those things. But just kind of keep that in mind as we go through. What we'd like you to do is create a wildfire action plan, just like we see here on the screen. First thing we want to do is designate a meeting location. Why? Because your safety is the #1 priority, period. And once we know you're out and safe, we change our mindset on how we attack fires. Have a designated meeting location. I know that when I was raising my daughters, my wife and I, we put together a quick action plan, and it was an event that just our house caught on fire, a regular house fire. We would get out and we'd meet across the street at our neighbor's oak tree. That was our meeting location. Obviously a little bit different when we're talking about a wildfire incident where we have to get out of the complete area. But we had that, our friends knew that, our family members knew that, and that was just very helpful. So we encourage you to put together a meeting location plan. Identify your evacuation routes. Okay, right now, if you close your eyes, you think about the way that you just drove to your house and that you do every day. Do you do it the same way every day? Do you know different areas out of your neighborhood? Because I can promise you, in the event that everybody has to leave, everybody's going to be going out that same way. And that's okay if it's a controlled flow, but it's a good idea to have that alternate plan in mind and know at least 2 ways, if possible, to get out of your immediate neighborhood area. Okay. Next, we want to make sure that you've developed a communication plan. You have your cell phone, but do you have all the appropriate numbers in it? Do you have all the contact information of the people that you need to get a hold of? That's something that you want to make sure that you have ahead of time, ready to go. We saw a quick video on it on how to plan for large animals and pets. Yes, absolutely. Consider that in regards to evacuating them, it takes a little bit longer. And not only that, if you have a large animal, think about the fact that you have them, your vehicle is going to be even less mobile. So you may want to be thinking about, as part of your plan, that you would maybe evacuate even earlier than even suggested. Okay. So have a plan for yourself, have a plan for your animals and your pets. Understand that most evacuation centers will initially, in the first phases of an event, accept pets. Absolutely. If the wildfire or the event continues and expands on, then they create secondary shelters for those pets, but you won't be turned away if you have pets. And just plan on taking them with you and getting out of the area as soon as possible. Assemble an emergency kit, a go kit. And this isn't just for wildfires. This is for earthquakes. This is for power outages, anything like that. And put the essentials into it. You should have the important documents, whether they're originals or the copies, ready to go. Put your necessary medications in them. Maybe an extra set of clothes, a small first aid kit, a little bit of water, a little bit of snacks, food, and then maybe some sort of flashlight. And it's real important that you put this great bag together, that you don't go ahead and pack it away in the closet and forget about it, okay? It needs to be accessible, so we strongly recommend that that is either in the car, which is facing out, ready to go, and or it's by the front door so you know where it is and you can get it and be on your way. So again, if you go ahead to our website, you can visit the Ready, Set, Go, and they talk a little bit more in depth about some of these things to kind of help you prepare to put together that Go Pack. Okay. So I said it kind of casually that, well, then we'll just get in the car and we'll go and we'll leave the area. But I'm fully aware that a lot of us, don't want to go, or how do I even know when it is time to go? So the simplest and safest thing I can tell you is that you know your home. You know the area that you live in. You may be even well-versed in the past fire history that's taken place in your area. But if you're asking yourself the question, should I go? Then we recommend you go. It's as simple as that. Life safety is always first. I know these are our castles and they may or may not be able to be rebuilt, but life safety is always first. So if you're questioning it, start thinking about leaving and get going. So when we talk about evacuating, it's not something that just is thrown out there lightly. It's a unified decision made by several agencies that are impacted and assisting with the emergency response. We have what we call an incident commander that will make that decision, and they will pass that down to law enforcement that will assist in making those evacuations take place. Because it's one of two things. You're either going to evacuate or you're going to shelter in place. And we'll talk a little bit about those. But it's real important that you understand law enforcement plays a huge role in what we do with these wildfires. Law enforcement is responsible for the movement of people. That's what they do. They know exactly how to evacuate you. So you may receive the alert SCC's warning, or you may have police officers knocking on the door, driving by using their PA systems. They may even be in helicopters announcing that it's either time to go, or potentially shelter in place. It means stay where you are. So these are things that you may see law enforcement working along with the fire department and your first responders. Along with Alert SCC, there's also what we call the wireless emergency alerts. Now, this one is more of a federally sponsored alerting system, if you will. And unlike the Alert SCC app, where you can download and opt into it, the wireless emergency alert system is something that you really don't have an option to do. You're going to get that notification automatically. Unless you have an older phone that maybe the technology doesn't really support that type of messaging that might be coming across, and or in the event that you have some sort of carrier that doesn't isn't part of that program, which I don't think I've actually even heard of. So chances are you're not really going to be able to opt out of that, which is great. That means you're getting two different alerts, hopefully the same information, but alerts letting you know of the stuff that's going on. Okay, so that's another way that you might be advised that it's either time to go or time to stay. Now, they put together these messages that tell us it's time to go, and then they kick it down to the, at least within Santa Clara County, our 911 dispatchers, and then they go ahead and they assist with the alerting of personnel. They don't create the message. They're just the platform that's used to help get that message out. So we also work with them. As you can tell, it's a collaborative effort of a bunch of different agencies working together to kind of pull this off and make this all work well. Okay. So we've done that. We're ready. We're set. And now again, is it time to go or is it time to stay? Believe it or not, it's not always good to evacuate. There will very well be times that it's best just to shelter in place. An example of this might be if there was a hazardous materials incident. You might be advised to shut your windows, close your doors, turn off the HVAC system, and wait for that toxic cloud maybe to pass by with the winds. Perfectly acceptable. Same thing can actually happen with a wildfire. They're watching it, they know the way it's moving, and if there may be times that they're asking you to shelter in place, which actually might be safer than you actually getting out exposed in the elements and trying to get out through it. So it's real important that you are staying in tune and you're hearing the information, credible information, about what it is that you should or should not be doing. In regards to evacuations, there's two different types or two different alerts, if you will. The first warning that we give out is evacuation warning. This is early on, and it's telling you that there's a potential threat to life and your property. So this is now when you need to stay plugged in and listening in. If you're one of those that takes a little longer, maybe to get packed and get on the road, this is your advisement to get moving and start heading out the door. If you have pets, this is the time to make sure that you are corralling them. If it were to change to an evacuation order, where it's immediate life-threatening and they're telling you it's time to leave now, that's not the time to try to corral the cat or the dog and get them in the cage and then get them in the car. So with those evacuation warnings, those potential life-threatening alerts, you want to start thinking about getting the move, okay? If you do receive an evacuation order, again, it's telling you there's immediate threat to your life and the property and it's time to leave now. Try to grab your pets, but it's time to leave now, okay? I do feel it's important that we give you complete information, and that part of that is the understanding that you don't have to leave your home if you don't want to. We cannot make you leave your home. But it's equally important that you understand that there are consequences that come with you not evacuating based off the professionals and the first responders telling you it's time to go. The mission of your first responders is very simple, and it doesn't matter what agency it is. It's life safety first, period. If you stay, that changes the mission of what we need to do. We need to worry about you, plus the fire that's about to impact the entire neighborhood. Okay, so we recommend that you evacuate and allow your first responders to come in and do their job. It just makes it safer for everybody. So please keep that in mind when you start to hear these warnings and these orders. Also keep in mind, in the event that you do leave your property, the chances or the option for you to come back to your property are going to be pretty slim, because law enforcement, for your benefit, for your protection, will lock down those streets to make sure that they stay safe. And there's been issues with looting and things like that. They will lock that down and they will keep those roads closed until it's deemed safe to be reopened. And that could be a while. So just understand that if you do leave your house, it could be quite some time before you're able to get back into your home. Okay. So with that, I really just can't stress enough. If you feel you need to leave, leave early, okay? And yes, we're very aware of 911. I'll leave you with this before I pass you back off to Chief Matheson, is that be cautious with using the 911 system. I don't want to discourage you from using it, but if you're calling about the fire that's taking place, they're very well aware of it. And 911 system can get overwhelmed very quickly if people are calling about that. So the unfortunate part is that in the event of one of these large scale events, emergencies, try to be prepared to deal with, be self-sufficient for 24 to potentially 48 hours. If you feel the need to call 911 for any other type of emergency, absolutely do it. But please understand that it could become overwhelming pretty quickly. So that's all I have right there. Chief Matheson's going to dive a little bit more into how to stay informed and talk a little bit more about some of these systems that we have there.
Chief Matheson, before you begin, either you or Chief Yanoni, questions just come in. Have possible safety sites been identified in each city or town if evacuation isn't possible? For instance, we live by the Los Gatos High School and wondered if the football field would be considered safe.
Great question. And actually, not to pun it to you, Chief Matheson, but I'm going to, because I know that you've worked on the Lexington Basin area as well as some of the other areas that you can touch upon it. If you feel comfortable doing that, I know that you've got some good insight to that stuff.
Yeah, so most of the pre-attack planning that we have done for Santa Clara County in conjunction with CAL FIRE has been in the unincorporated areas of the county, so outside the city limits. Large football field in downtown Los Gatos, I would feel pretty comfortable in there in the event of a catastrophic wildfire. There are plans in place that we're working on right now in our evacuation zone planning for the county, which will identify safety zones. It will identify evacuation routes. It will identify areas, the recovery centers or the evacuation centers that are designated for each zone. And when we roll out those zones, we'll have a community outreach for it as well, so that you guys, all the residents learn how to use that program to know what zone you're in, know your zone. That's one of the probably a pretty good catchphrase for another webinar. But we are in the process of doing that. And so there are some identified in some of those pre-attack planning, but not for every community, not yet, but we are in the process of doing that. And hopefully this zone program that we're working on will be available and ready to roll out by the middle of the summer or early fall. And anything else?
I just want to add one more thing. This is a good place to talk about Ready SCC just for another minute. When they do the evacuations in the Ready SCC app, you can also see the shelters and the areas they want you to use. So it's not just the same as an alert that says time to go. When you get an alert through the app that's downloaded on your phone, it actually tells you the pet shelters, the shelters they want the people to go to, etc. So it's the next step up of notification.
Any other questions? Oh, okay, so yeah, just touching on what Chief Yanoni said about staying informed. It's important that you guys stay informed. However, it's important that you're also using public safety sites to keep informed. There are a lot of apps out there. There are a lot of community group sites that can sometimes pass on erroneous information, specifically regarding evacuations, the way the fire is being fought. A lot of things can go sideways on those. So those public safety agencies will utilize the social media to disseminate emergency updates. And it's an excellent tool for communication, but we got to make sure that you're following an official source. So Alert SCC is on there. Ready SCC app is another good source. Social media for Santa Clara County Fire. CAL FIRE has their own social media, Twitter and Facebook accounts. Santa Clara County Sheriffs have those. Your town and city police departments, I'm sure, have them as well. And those are good ways of staying informed as things progress, because things can progress pretty quickly. Okay, so I think I'm going to pass it on to Eugenia Redler from the Fire Safe Council to go over what you can do as a community to prepare. And she's got a couple of great programs that will allow that to happen.
Okay, great. Thank you. So much great information. Are we all caught up on the Ready, Set, Go questions before I change topics? Okay, perfect. So one of the things that we want to talk to you about tonight is, now that you've heard about your individual information, your go bag, ready, set, go, home hardening, etc., what's the next layer that can happen in your neighborhood? There's a program called Firewise that the neighbors band together, and now you're starting to do the next thing beyond just your individual parcel and your individual home's structure. So that's what I'd like to help you with tonight. The next, there we go. So Firewise is a national program, Firewise USA. It's through the NFPA, and it's active in 42 states. So we know this works. It's been around for about 18 years, and there's actually about 2,000 sites at this point. In Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County, we've got about 20 Firewise recognized sites, and there's another half a dozen in the pipeline that are working on making this program come together. So it's gaining momentum. And in the lower left, you can see just in our area, if you can picture where that high hazard map was, you know, now you can see where the Firewise communities are popping up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and then down in the right-hand side, you've got the Morgan Hill area where the CZU or SCU fire scar was. So it's working, and we want to encourage more, and that's why we're teaching you about it tonight. Next one. So it gives you a framework for action. It increases individual responsibility, which is the types of things you heard about, the ready, set, go, especially the preparation areas. But it also helps you do teamwork together. It's all voluntary. There's no requirements. The support program is run through us. We're a nonprofit. We don't have inspections. We don't have those types of things. We're not going to be able to come out and write citations. It's all voluntary. And it's a way for you to get together and decrease risk for residents, because the more houses that you have with defensible space and the roadside clearing and things accomplished, you know, the less risk you have. And it also helps the first responders. As they talked about before, they're going to decide, you know, how to come in, where to come in, who they have to take care of. Life is going to be first and then property. So this is a way to decrease risk for them too. Help them, help you, and help your neighborhood. It also increases the compliance with the defensible space regulations. If you live in the wildland urban interface, you're required by code to have defensible space. And this is a great way to encourage that and make it easy to do. Next one. Okay. There we go. So like I said, it gives you a framework for action. It teaches you what you need to do to, you know, get started, to do risk reduction. It helps with evacuation planning. And on the right here, you can see a picture where these neighbors have gotten together to work on trees that are roadside. Individually, they wouldn't have been able to do this because not everyone here knows how to use a chainsaw. But you can see the fellow on the left knows how to use a chainsaw. They've got extra people there to fell the tree in the right place. Teamwork just makes it much easier and more effective. You have to have an annual maintenance plan with the Firewise community. So this helps that maintenance. You need to repeat it. Vegetation grows back the next year. We all know, because we've got to mow it and trim it and take care of it. And of course, community building. When you're out working with your neighbors, you're building community. Potentially, you can have additional grants for this. The Firewise program itself offers small grants for neighborhood activities. And there are also grants available through FEMA, sometimes through CAL FIRE, sometimes at the county level. And Firewise is one of the things they ask about. If you can check the Firewise community box, that raises the potential that you'll get a grant. Across the country, we've seen insurance companies give discounts for Firewise from Nevada, Colorado. They're talking about it in California. So we know that Firewise communities are effective enough that even insurers can see the difference in claims and wildfire activity, that they're willing to give a discount for it. So hopefully the insurance commissioner in California will also get that through. You might join one of the other insurance webinars that's coming up on this list of webinars for the county fire department and see what they have to say about that. Is there one more? Here we go. So there's 6 easy steps to getting Firewise recognition for your community. First, you need a steering committee or a board that's comprised of neighborhood people. These are grassroots efforts. There's nobody that comes in and tells you what to do. You're building this plan based on your neighborhood. Are you a street that's a cul-de-sac with only one way out? Or, you different kinds of streets, or there T intersections where you might have a traffic flow problem. You're building these individually. The next thing you need to do is get a wildfire risk assessment. That usually comes from the fire department that has you and your neighborhood in their jurisdiction. And these steps don't have to be perfectly in order. They're flexible. Host a minimum of 1 education day per year. Super easy. Fire Safe Council has at least 4 prepared presentations that we can bring out, or we can customize one to suit your needs if you've already got some of the basics down and you want to work on something else. But you have to hold one of those a year. And you have to develop a multi-year action plan. It's typically built out of what the fire department says in your wildfire risk assessment. So the first year, we encourage you to pick the low-hanging fruit, do the easy things, get momentum. And then usually your next couple of years, you start doing some of the things that may take more coordination, a little bit more money, hiring a contractor, things like that. And this one's really tough in our areas. I'm just kidding. 1 hour per residence per year. I am sure you all trim more than 1 hour a year. So that one is so easy. It's just a matter of keeping track of which addresses do which kind of work. That one's very easy to meet. And finally, you create an account and you upload your documents. And then once you're recognized, they send you out a sign for your neighborhood and you post it. What do we have next? So potential neighborhood work days. This seems to be the one that's trickiest for neighborhoods to think up what they want to do. So an education day, that's one of the ones we just talked about, is required. You can have evacuation practices. I have one neighborhood that does a go bag drill to the end of their driveway and they time it. So you pretend you've gotten your evacuation order and you pack your go bag, you put the kids in the car, you put the pets in the car, you put your go bags in the car, all that kind of stuff. You race down to the end of your driveway and they give away little goodie bags or whatever. Chipping programs. You already saw the pictures of the chainsaw day. One of the other great things to do for the kids that get everybody involved is painting with the water risers. The 4-inch pipe some neighborhoods are required to have. Teens can easily do that. I Spy the Number game was invented by the little kids. If we can't see your house numbers, they can't stop. They're going to go right by you. So we recommend 4-inch reflective house numbers. So, send the little guys through the neighborhood. If they can't find your house number, it's likely that in the smoke and the dusk, especially if it's a mutual aid responder from out of town, they're not going to find your house number either. So there's an easy way to bring lots of people together here. Find out what neighbors need assistance. Tour your neighborhood. Walk down streets you haven't been down before. And then pack your go bag event. Those are easy things that you can do and have for the weekend. So last but not least, we are your Firewise coach. So Firewise, like I said earlier, is a national program. It's a grassroots effort that you put together, but we can certainly help you. On average, it takes across the nation about 18 months from when you get that first steering committee and board together to the recognition stage of having everything turned in. What we're finding in Santa Clara County is when we help you and we're coaching you, it takes about 7 months. So we significantly shorten the time for you by helping you interface and get your community assessment done, knowing which fire agency to ask for that, offering pre-made education seminars for you, our spring tipping program, things like that. And we also just check in. What have you done this month? What do you need help with this month? It helps you cycle through. And at the bottom of the screen here, you can see we have a dedicated Firewise leader just in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So we've got multiple people on staff that can do this, but we have someone who lives in the Santa Cruz Mountains and she does a great job with all the little idiosyncrasies that can happen, particularly in the redwoods and the oaks and things like that. And I think we are on to the website. So this repeats some of the things that you've heard tonight, but it gives these single page fact sheets that are very helpful because it breaks it down into steps. So instead of saying, okay, we got to harden our home this weekend, which is huge and maybe confusing and maybe a lot to do, it'll talk about how to change the attic vents or how to put up the 1/8-inch screen instead of the 1/4-inch screen. It breaks it down into manageable steps, and you can see down the right-hand side of these sheets, they're actually numbered steps that you can do to make it easier. In the lower right, it talks about the fencing that Chief Yanoni mentioned already, how it wicks right up to the house, and it gives selection. It gives it examples and selections of what you can do. Maybe it's a wrought iron pedestrian gate that breaks that continuous fuel line up. So there's about a dozen of these individual fact sheets on their website, and you do not need to be a Firewise community yet to use these fact sheets. They're available to anyone. You can just download them. I think we're done.
Okay, we have one question that has come in, and Eugenia or maybe Chief Matheson can address it. Is the county considering creating new potential fire breaks, for example, McGrill Sandboard Road?
That's an awesome question. So what we touched on, and what I recommend everybody take a look at, it's on our website, is our Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is a countywide document. Every city and every local jurisdiction within the county is represented in this Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and it's an annex. So Saratoga has its own annex, Morgan Hill has its own annex, and in those annexes, you have a demographic of the community, you've got a demographic of where they are on the fire hazard severity map, and you also have identified fuels projects that we work together with the Fire Safe Council and CAL FIRE to try to start implementing them. And every new fuel break, or even a maintenance fuel break, requires a number of things that we need to do prior to even start work. First and foremost is a funding source, and that's where the Fire Safe Council comes in with grant funding. It also requires environmental clearance, figuring out who owns the land, a maintenance plan, and where does it fit in to hardening our communities. And part of my job, I've been on the job here with the County Fire for about 5 weeks. And part of my job is going to be to update those annexes. And I would certainly look at that road. I'm not familiar with it right now, but I would look at it and look at its feasibility of creating it. And also look at where we have worked previously, where we are planning to work in the future, and identifying funding sources and getting the steps needed in place to start doing some of these projects. And I don't know, Jenny, if you want to touch on that anymore.
I don't have any specifics either, but I'm glancing at the map and I know that we've done work around Sanborn County Park. So it's definitely on our radar and it has been touched in the recent past.
And then Chief Byrne, who works for the agency that is responsible for giving a lot of the grants. Do you want to talk about the importance of that CWPP document and those projects that are being included in grant funding?
Yeah, that's handled at our unit forester level, but they do take there's a whole process on the different projects that are looking at going, and then they rate those, and then based on those ratings on the importance of them, they get scored, and that's how some of the grant funding. From my understanding, as it's still going through, there's more and more money being put into these grants with the understanding that what can we do to prevent these large and devastating fires? And what we're realizing is year round, there's work that can be done. There can be done at the community levels. We talked about a lot today, and there's a lot of work that we can do with the different agencies. And collaboratively, and all of us working together, we are identifying those and working on those. But the specifics for the grants is handled at different levels. But you know, there's a scoring process and how they award those grants.
And I can speak for the county fire side. We are building a program as we speak right now to address these fuel break projects, address hardening of our communities, and addressing being proactive versus reactive to these fires that are starting statewide, and they're not going away. And it's the new normal, I guess, is a pretty common phrase that people use nowadays. But we live in a fire adapted community in California. The Santa Cruz Mountains, the Sierra Nevada, it's all had fire. It needs fire. And we have learned to live. We need to learn to live with fire like we are learning to live with earthquakes and floods and all of the other things that come along with living in California. And so we are working on that. I'm open to looking at that field break. And yeah, that's the best answer I can get to that question.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. If you have a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A or in the chat. Again, if you reference the chat feature, a lot of information and a lot of direct links were shared with you via the chat. So feel free to check that out. And thank you to those of you who said you appreciated this and the information that was presented. You found it very helpful. So we appreciate your feedback. We do have some upcoming webinars you may have seen on Eventbrite, and they're listed here on your screen. And so all of these can be accessed via Eventbrite. And our direct link down there is sccfd.eventbrite.com. But this concludes our Ready, Set, Go series of webinars. And then next week we have Recovering from Wildfire. So you can check that out. And then we also have Understanding Homeowners Insurance. We've been getting a lot of questions about insurance. So that will be presented by California Department of Insurance. So please join us on that as well. And then as Chief Yanoni had already mentioned earlier in the presentation, in July and August, we'll have more workshops coming up, and we'll be focusing on reducing wildfire risks in the home ignition zone, which is that we're really going to be focusing on the 0 to 5 during these scheduled webinars. Again, that will happen on July 22nd, August 11th, and August 31st. So again, you can register for any of these coming up via Eventbrite. If you simply follow us on Eventbrite, then you'll know when we go ahead and launch new classes or programs, you'll get a notification. Let's see, a question just came through. How do you get your home on a to save list if there is a fire? Heard the fire department visits homes and evaluates the fire safety.
I can answer that if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So,
thank you.
So wildland firefighting is a very dangerous profession. And when our firefighters go in, if conditions are everything we talked about today, our firefighters from all over the state of California and every agency will go into areas and make sure that it's going to be safe for firefighters based on a lot of the things that your communities can be there and fight the fire. Unfortunately, the fire service has seen many fatalities, including our own, on these devastating fires. So the more that you can do on your property, on the roads that are coming in, and the fuel that you can reduce, and the more safe that your home is, the safer it's going to be for our firefighters to stay there in the event that a major fire comes through the area. So really, we look at what homes are available out of all the homes, and as the fire's coming in and the resources we have, we try to do the most good for the most homes, and the homes that have the ability to be saved with us being there. We try to dedicate efforts to saving the homes that we can save and protecting our firefighters' lives. That's the answer I have.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Another question has come through. He's unable to save the chat, all the information that was put in the chat. No problem, because we will have a document in the Dropbox link that we'll be sharing with you via email that has all of the direct links that we shared with you this evening and all of the topics. So all of this information will be provided via a Dropbox link that you should just be able to click on, and then you can simply check all of the files that are in that Dropbox link and download them to your computer and save them for future access. And then our contact information will be included. So, and it has been included on your Eventbrite registration reminder emails. You can always reach us at community outreach, all one word, at sccfd.org. And we'll go ahead and put that in the chat feature for you right now. But if you need any assistance accessing the Dropbox link or any of the information, you're looking for more information, then please, you can simply contact us by email or give us a call. And again, all contact information was sent via Eventbrite. That looks like it is all of the questions that have been asked. If you have, again, any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A, but I don't see any right now. Hopefully those of you that asked a question, your question was answered this evening. I don't see any more that have come through. Again, we really appreciate your time in joining us this evening because, you know, as Chief Matheson has already explained, right, we are in very difficult times in terms of weather and lack of rain and so forth. So preparing now is key. And so hopefully the information that was presented this evening kind of helped jumpstart and give you the information that you need to start hardening your home. And then if any of you want to say anything as we wrap up this program, please feel free. But again, our contact information was just placed in the chat, so feel free to copy that. But again, all this information will be shared with you shortly.
It was a pleasure speaking with you guys this evening, and I hope you have a safe summer.
I just wanted to say that with the understanding of these wildfires, really didn't start overnight, and quite honestly, they're not going to be resolved overnight. It's going to take a collaborative effort by you, the citizens, and your first responders. So I'm glad to see us working together towards that common goal. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and I appreciate the work that Santa Clara County Fire and the Fire Safe Council do, and look forward to working with the community and the different agencies to make Santa Clara safer. And again, it's up to you to get involved and make things safer and make it safer for our firefighters on these fires. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other questions other than some nice comments that they found this information very helpful this evening. So thank you, Chief Matheson, thank you, Chief Yanoni, and thank you, Chief Byrne and Eugenia for presenting this important information this evening. So again, we look forward to you joining us at our upcoming webinars. And again, that information can be found via Eventbrite or on our department website. And we look forward to seeing you soon. So again, please stay safe and let's work together to create safer communities.